The violence will now get worse.
Hammered the town of Rogers. In fact, some homes damaged last night were still in the process of being repaired from the last storms. KARE 11's Rhonda Kinchlow continues our team report on the hundreds of properties now in need of repair. Rhonda?
You know, Rick, Governor Pawlenty has already arrived in this area, and he is assessing the damage, giving his own evaluation of it. He'll deliver that at a news conference in about 15 minutes. Meantime, the police chief has already looked over the area, and as you said, this is the third major storm to hit Rogers in 1 year.
There will be some houses that I believe are beyond repair.
Rogers Police Chief Keith Oldfather says he surveyed the area hit by the strong winds last night and initially thought perhaps 100 homes suffered minor or major damage. But the light of day proved a different story.
It seems to be scattered in a straight line as it was pushed.
The police chief says between 200 to 300 homes in Rogers have been damaged, 50 of them suffering severe damage. The chief said he also noted the ground littered with downed power lines.
The damage on the south side is pretty much contained to a single certain area. But when you get on the north side, it cut a swath about 3 blocks wide to by 7 or 8 blocks long.
The area affected by the storm was not as large as the storm that hit Rogers 1 year ago. Mayor Lee Stanley says still the Saturday night storm carried a punch. So how close did it come last night?
I was about 2 blocks.
The foundation was moved at least 20 feet.
It had pounded the south side of my house pretty hard.
There's a fence over there of someone's pool, and that got completely torn down.
Andrew Dirksen checked his uncle's property.
A trampoline came flying from about a block away and ran into my uncle's car, banged up the back of his car windshield.
They think it was just straight winds because it just kept going, and there were no sirens. It just came up very quickly, and he said it just kept coming.
Fire Chief Scott Weltzen is looking into whether the siren sounded.
I've had reports that yes, they did sound, but I can't verify that. I know I was in person here on the first call. I did not hear them, but there was a lot going on at the time.
And there is a lot of cleanup that's going to go on for now as well. The mayor says they are looking for volunteers, and in a small community, they probably won't have any problem finding them. Here's the number to call if you're interested in helping out. It's area code 763-428-2253. Back to you guys.
All right, Rhonda, thank you very much.
Well, as we said, the National Weather Service has determined it was a tornado, not straight line winds, that touched down in Rogers.
Meteorologist Jonathan Uhas also got a look from the air today and takes a closer look at what the storm's path reveals.
All right, I'm going to show you that path, and too, it's important to note that the area was under a severe thunderstorm warning when that tornado hit. And that last night also we were covered by a tornado watch, so people, it's very important to stay alert to those warnings. And then the tornado that did drop down was right about 10 o'clock, and the warning came out a few minutes later. But this is the path that we saw today as we were flying over Cowley Lake and then the northwest side of Rogers and then just up to Highway 101. This line represents the most damage. It's probably about 1.5 miles long, maybe up to 2 miles long, of very intense damage. And we'll take a look at that now with the video here and show you what that looked like. This is, again, the southwest side of Cowley Lake. This is the first farmstead that we saw that was damaged severely by the tornado. Then the tornado goes across Cowley Lake, and it just breaks through these trees, and then you can see this undeveloped land yet, but all ready to be developed. Then it passes into the Aspen Road area, and that's where the damage becomes really severe. Classic tornado damage, too, because when you look at it, here's one house is completely destroyed, and then notice this blue house, no damage at all. Then it crosses Interstate 94, and this is an antique windmill farm that's over there, and we saw all the windmills scattered around. Then as it moves up to Orchard Avenue in that area, we saw houses that were just completely destroyed. I mean, this looks like a house that will have to be really just start over from scratch. We saw vehicles that appeared to have rolled. This is closer to Highway 101, that is a camper. And then we also noticed these trees that were pointed straight to the north, and then these trees were pointed in all different directions. Again, another sign of a tornado. But the big thing, Rick and Amy, is that the damage was in a very narrow path, and in that path that damage was very severe. Last year, severe storms up there almost exactly a year ago produced a lot of straight line wind damage, covered a much large area, but the damage, the structural damage, was not as severe as what we saw with these storms. So this tornado, in some people's backyards, it went right through their backyards and missed their houses, and then unfortunately hit their neighbors' houses and did severe damage. When you see it from the air, Rick and Amy, you get the whole picture. You can really see how this had a straight line. And we did see some damage, or some trees and some what looked like material sitting in the Mississippi River. And it's very possible that some of those materials from the Rogers storm did get dumped off into the Mississippi River about 6-7 miles northeast of there. So again, a very large tornado, winds probably about 150 miles per hour with that tornado as it went through Rogers last night.
Hey, Jonathan, do you know, are the sirens generally activated when the warning is declared?
It depends on the county. The counties have the discretion to do that. Some counties, like Dakota County, will issue or put the sirens on if a severe thunderstorm warning is issued for their county. Hennepin County does not do that. Had Hennepin County done that last night, those sirens would have been sounding before that tornado hit. But Hennepin County typically waits until it's an actual tornado warning.
I see. So, you know, one of the things I'm trying to figure out, like probably a lot of people right now, is whether somebody was just late with a switch on the alarms themselves, those sirens, or could it have been that it took just longer than normal to figure out that we had a tornado warning situation?
Well, there were probably three things going on. It was dark, so nobody could see anything. And the other thing, too, is that we were under a severe thunderstorm warning, so people should have been alert to hit that switch just in case it went to a tornado warning. And the third thing is the National Weather Service is the only group that can issue a tornado warning, so everybody has to kind of wait for them to issue that tornado warning, and then the sirens can go off. National Weather Service really did a great job with all the warnings last night. It's just, I think it's a Saturday night, it's 10 o'clock at night, it's middle September, people kind of let their guard down a little bit, but we were talking earlier in the day how explosive the environment was for severe weather, and it was just going to get stronger as we got into the evening hours. So it's really important that people pay attention to those watches and those alerts that are being issued throughout the daytime hours.
All right.
Thank you, Jonathan. In other news now, an Amber Alert for a missing handicapped boy is over tonight. The suspect returned the 4-year-old to his home this morning. The Itasca Sheriff's Office says Renal Relaford, a registered sex offender, took off with his girlfriend's blind son who suffers from cerebral palsy. Relaford returned the boy unharmed. He was taken into custody less than 3 hours after that Amber Alert was issued.
Emergency teams in northern Minnesota are asking people along part of the Gunflint Trail to get out of the way of 4 separate wildfires. Crews went door to door today, telling residents of the danger from the largest of the fires, dubbed the Famine Lake Fire. This morning, just a quarter of an inch of rain fell. That was offset by winds at more than 20 miles an hour, continuing to fan the flames. Firefighters in the air and on the ground worked to contain all 4 fires, which have burned more than 6,000 acres. In other news now, the Vikings kicked off their home opener this afternoon.
Coming off a big win in Washington, the Vikes were primed to take on the Carolina Panthers on their home turf. But it would take a fourth quarter comeback for the Vikes to send this one into overtime. Eric Perkins joins us from the newsroom now with an early look at this fantastic finish. Perk?
Yeah, in this bottom line league, it's wins, not losses that matter, but it is hard to deny there is some serious luck that comes into today's Vikings victory. It comes in the fourth quarter with the Vikes trailing 13-6. Chris Gamble fields the punt for Carolina, and then for some bizarre reason tries to throw the ball across the field to a teammate. Jason Glenn pounces on it, and the Vikes are in business. The offense, though, unable to score any touchdowns today. Thank goodness special teams is able to, though. The trickery. Ryan Longwell throwing to Richard Owens, and we are tied at 13 with the touchdown. In overtime, the Vikes drive it into scoring position, and Longwell, for the second straight week, knocks home the game-winning field goal. And so that's the bottom line. The Vikings are 2-0 and now get set to host the Chicago Bears, who are also off to a fast 2-0 start. We will have more highlights and post-game comments coming up in sports.
All right, sir. See you out here shortly. Well, last night's storms were just one sign of a big change already taking place in the weather.
Might have noticed we were locked in the 60s today. Straight ahead, find out just how cool it's going to get this week.
Plus, the Twins take on Cleveland, hoping to take another step toward the playoffs. We'll be right back.
Now I know what you're thinking. This madman just dumped a pile of dirt on my beautiful carpet. But with the amazing Electro Suck 3000, that pile